Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. We're your hosts, Tobie and Scott, and this episode we're talking about H.P Lovecraft's Beyond the Wall of Sleep. It's going to be a fairly spoiler-heavy episode, so if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side.
Welcome.
Morning, Toby.
Good morning, Scott. How art thou?
Yes, pretty unshabby. Is that
Unshabby?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
Unshabby.
Yeah. Put together.
Well, yeah. No, you put it like that. Maybe not even that far. It's I don't know what, 8 in the morning here. Oh, almost 9. Not too bad.
Okay.
On Sunday.
Okay. I feel like we should be talking in overly elaborate prose. This podcast should be delivered
sort of
from an era of the 1900s.
Specific. I could probably do a faux po, maybe.
Okay.
Upon this morning, I did gaze upon this view.
Too many bonds.
And what did I see? My eyes did hail upon. The weather was okay, but I don't know if I can do a Lovecraft. He's like a century later or something than Poe. So
yeah.
It's in sternish text.
Indeed.
I'm very serious.
Very serious.
And I have to sort of talk about a madman. Maybe I could see a madman from my window.
From my window, I did.
From the Chesterfield.
My gaze upon.
I don't know enough old words for furniture.
No, I don't know any.
From the vestibule.
Oh,
vestibule
as a belter. The vestibule.
Coming from the shadows, did I see a man delivering Deliveroo? What madness I say. Now hear my story.
Words I utter.
If the title hadn't given it away, listener, maybe this intro would have. We're talking about another H.P Lovecraft.
Indeed we are.
Beyond the Wall of Sleep.
Beyond.
I'm not going to lie. We picked it because of length.
It is beautifully short. It's doable, readable, consumable within less than an hour, I would say.
I think I saw on YouTube.
The slowest persuasion.
There's a bunch of people reading it out and people doing their own audiobooks, like well under half hour, I think. Like 10 pages, 11, 12 pages, maybe.
Yeah. The version I read is part from a tome of a book, H.P Lovecraft's The Annotated Tales.
It is a beautiful cover. There's a beautiful copy.
Gorgeous book. It's stunning. And there's some really nice, insightful moments in the wings of the text.
Oh, did you get some cool, I think trivializes it a bit, but
a little bit. It's not quite as in depth as
Dagon.
Yeah, Dagon. That had some more, the whole U-boats and all that stuff, but this is much more. I think because it's a massive, vastly shorter and not particularly in depth, I don't think.
I guess the other one had a lot of interesting stuff behind it.
But it does touch on some topics that I found quite interesting.
Nice.
So, let's kick off with Beyond the Wall of Sleep. Obviously, it is a short story by the American novelist or writer H.P. Lovecraft, written in 1919 and first published in the amateur publication Pinecones in October 1919. Lovecraft said the story was inspired by an April 27th, 1919 article in the New York Tribune, reporting on a New York State Police article citing a family named Slater as representative of the backwoods Catskills population. And it's also, so that was part of the.
So that was an article he read.
Yeah, that was the article we read. And then it's also inspired by an astronomical event centered around the G.K. Purcell, also Nova Purcell, from 1901, which was a bright nova first observed from Earth in 1901. It was discovered by Thomas Dave Anderson in Edinburgh at 0240.
Was at the time?
Yeah, that's a modern one. On February 22, 1901, the brightest nova of modern times until Nova Aquilae in 1918, after fading into obscurity at about a magnitude of 12 to 30 during the early 20th century. So he combined this police report and what I guess is a supernova, exploding star.
Right. Okay, yeah.
There was, and he put those two together and came up with the story of Beyond the Wall of Sleep. To give you a synopsis of what the tale is about, I'll basically read a small paragraph.
Oh, hit it.
A short story. We may guess that in dreams, life, matter, and vitality, as the earth knows such things, are not necessarily constant, and that time and space do not exist as our waking selves comprehend them. Sometimes I believe that this less material life is our truer life, and that our vain presence on the terraqueous globe is itself a secondary or merely virtual phenomenon. I think that beautifully sums up this tale. And then I've got a little bit about what the Catskills are. So this is where the person, or the John Slater was originated from. So the Catskills were given their name by early Dutch settlers and is a physiographical province of the larger Appalachian Mountains. Appalachian Mountains. Thank you. You must have tracked these.
The Appalachian Trail, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Located in southeastern New York, a 700,000 acre forest preserve protected from many forms of development under the New York state law, and is also host of the town Bethnal, which is located in the Catskills, was the home of the famous and infamous Woodstock Music Festival.
Oh, okay, yeah.
From 1916.
So I think as described in the book and probably in the modern America, though I don't know if it's like a kind something you don't really say, but basically poor white trash America, no?
Yeah. Outback. I got a couple of
hillbillies, I guess maybe is the word.
Hillbillies.
Before the word got a bit reclaimed, maybe.
Exactly. And then I've got a couple of 5-star reviews. Peter, the line between reality and dreams is blurring in this great short story. Did Joe Slater, a degenerative hick, really kill a man, or was he filled by another entity, something cosmic, something from beyond? In this great short story, Lovecraft comes up with a first-person narrator who uses modern radio technology to reveal Slater's secret, page by page. Well written, eerie, fantastic, a symphony of dream and nightmare. I know I can only recommend this accomplished story. Lovecraft leads you into a dreamland you'll never forget. Jose Cruz Parker.
Nice.
With my 5-star. This Elysian realm I dwelt not as a stranger, for each sight and sound was familiar to me, just as it had been for uncounted eons of eternity before, would be for the like eternities to come. This is a perfect short story, and I do not say this lightly. Lovecraft's infamous purple prose is at its best in the world Beyond the Wall of Sleep. One of the reasons for this is the author's immense cyclopedian vocabulary, and I completely agree with that. Some of the words he uses in this and the way that he structures sentences are wonderful. A joy to read. Tight quotes, vocabulary, and talent for masculinity and harmony when writing prose. The story itself is beyond the eerie. What if our bodies are actually hosts for unnameable entities that we can only see in the vague images of our sleep? In the Beyond the Wall of Sleep, a thing inhabits the body of a simple rustic man, eventually driving the latter virtually insane. Even to this day, Lovecraft continues to amaze me. What an intellect. And then I've got 2 1-stars. The 1-stars, there weren't actually that many for this. There's about 10 on the Goodreads that I could find. And then basically focused on racism aspect. Amy with a 1-star. Let it be known that Lovecraft hates white trash hillbillies just as much as any other lesser race. The man is an elitist jackass. There is no way around that. I can't quite discern if this tale of telepathic dreaming is the first appearance of old gods, or if the dream beings are something else entirely.
Oh, that took a weird turn, that review.
Yeah. And then Marco, while in later stories, the author xenophobia is channeled and translated into horror for alien gods and ancient monsters, and here the continuous attack against what the author calls white trash works against him. The continuous rants are distracting, not to mention disturbing, and they dehumanize one of the main characters, making the reader care less about him.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I guess it's kind of some stuff I agree with, but some stuff seems maybe that someone, not to trivialize any of his nasty ways of thinking on HP, but like there's maybe a certain sense of, I don't like him.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to praise his work.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Don't get me wrong. Of course. But it just seems like to me, like if there's a writer I didn't like because they're racist.
Any
I guess we covered that in the last episode, so we won't go through everyone. Like unless it comes up like this, I suppose. But like, it's going through every one of his shorts saying this guy's a racist, so it's not so good.
Would be.
I mean, I definitely see there's a point for like his, I guess, snobism is flaring out here.
Yeah,
but no buts. Sorry.
no. I think as a vehicle for, I didn't ever get really a flavor of racism. I just got a view of, what the guy was. He was somebody that lived out in the sticks, cut off from society, and was different to the norm of the time, and probably the norm would be of now as well. And I was just looking at an article online of some drone footage of a isolated race that still walk around carrying sticks and painted bread.
Oh, it's just the tribe, the untouchable tribe that they killed a missionary in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Eli Roth. On Green something.
Green Inferno.
Yeah, Green Inferno was very much the topic of that you just mentioned. And it gives just taking a subset of people and using them as a vehicle to tell a short story. I don't know whether it's necessarily judgmental or racist.
I guess we'll come back. I don't know if you've still got your intro notes you want to go on, or dive right into it.
No, don't dive right into it.
Because I did write down like it was a pretty uncaring and unsympathetic for old Joe Slater.
Mm-hmm.
And since our narrator remains nameless.
Yes.
And he's sort of more narrator than character to an extent, or at least for a chunk of it.
Yeah.
It sort of left me quite empty on character.
Of Joe Slater.
Like he was sort of like an animal in his eyes, and it was irrelevant who he was.
He was a patient, wasn't he? He wasn't, it was that doctor-patient relationship in the sense that he was, I guess he was almost seen as a lab rat.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like he was just, there was no real care for trying to get him better, particularly, or at least not shown in this story. It was just an experiment almost. I mean, being that, I guess,
debate as well.
If this sci-fi or horror, you can argue that it leads to the horror aspect of the dehumanization. But I don't think that's quite what he was going for, being that, I guess I was reading it's quite widely understood that he's kind of putting himself in the narrator's shoes.
Oh, right, okay.
You know what I mean? That's an extension. A lot of people believe, at least, that's an extension of H.P. Lovecraft himself, like sort of projecting himself in his stories a bit, like as the narrator, as it were, like blending an omnipresent narrator with a first-person narrator.
Yeah.
So that did not spike out, but it was for a short story with only one character name. That character itself remains quite distant from us.
Yes. What did you think to the narrator perspective? Because you have a problem with the first person perspective.
I think that's just an HP staple, no? Like, I think mostly we're going to be like hearing from someone after an event, talking about something that haunted him, going back and showing us, and then coming back.
It's definitely been
I mean,
Since the two that we've read. Yeah. Yeah.
But I know Mountain for Madness is something similar with
Right.
someone talking to like a board of people, like trying to pitch a meeting to go back to something because of what he's seen.
Okay.
So I think I'm sure it won't be maybe in every single one, but that's quite the vehicle for telling the story, I suppose. The framing of it to the plot is quite a staple from what I gather. As you say, certainly for the two we've read, which I don't mind. I guess it just makes for a bit of a clunky start, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I read this one a couple times, it being so short, and it sort of got better each time. The first time I didn't quite know what to make of it. I did read it a bit late, and I got the gist of it. But I sort of came to the end and I was like, huh? So it's sort of upon further readings, I get it.
Yeah.
Whether it's down to it being it's obviously not overcomplicated 8 pages, but it very much like Dagon as well. It was better for me to be absorbed slowly. And again, I think we talked about it briefly before about enjoying something more after you know what happens. The anticipation's gone, which isn't the case in this. It's not like I was so on the edge of my seat anticipating reading it to know if it was good, to enjoy it, but something along those lines of, I guess, similar to sort of Shakespeare in school. It's like it's you know, you don't really read Shakespeare in school. You study it. You're literally taught exactly what it meant.
And you have to decipher.
Not quite this level with H.P. Lovecraft, but certainly a rereading and for me at least, a making sense second and third time.
I like I said, alluded to at the beginning, I really enjoy the way that it's written, the use of the language and the structure of sentences, and it feels like reading poetry at times, I think.
I can see that, like a sort of Homer, like an epic Odyssey poetry with words. The idea, the synopsis of the whole idea of it all, that just to go further for anyone who's listening but hasn't read it, it's like we sort of, we're going to talk about what happens in it, or no? Like so Joe is just like arrested for this sort of violent debauchery, I suppose, just violent outbursts, and he ends up like killing someone, and he ends up in a mental institute where our narrator is like an intern who takes an interest in him, and he sort of rambles, and he sort of goes into these frenzy with this spark in his eye, which is kind of a bit undecipherable, but that's not the language like Hillbilly Joe normally talks. He's normally like an uncouth, ill-educated man, and now he's sort of talking galactic proportions, and he will burn through his enemies on the bright night of the night. And then there's a bit of a interjection of like, oh, by the way, I have a dream machine.
Yeah. I used it a while back and it didn't work, so I packed it away. But this is an instance in which I should unpack it and try and give it another round.
He's right. But so
for a large part of the story, it doesn't work, does it?
I guess everyone had to fall asleep. Was that the key? He was sort of awake and sharp. But so he basically plugged their two brains together where you can step into someone else's conscious. And then he gets a snip view of what's going on in like a far off galaxy, in the cosmos. And I guess spoiler alert, I suppose. Like basically we're like twin-souled, twin-connected with an Earth self and like a cosmic self being that share the same soul. And the Joe's soul was just sort of having an intergalactic beef with something, and he kind of needed to be free of Joe.
That was the one part of I didn't quite get, that the oppressor, I think he's referenced as towards the end. That's
the person we're having the beef with.
Yes, that kind of got lost on me. Like there's Joe and the body of Joe, the earthly plane person, is just a vehicle for the soul, and then the soul goes when the body dies, the soul leaves and goes off to somewhere else, and then possibly reconnects with a different entity and inhabits that, and then so
I
on
guess
and
they
so forth.
become a literal being of light, like something out of Watchmen or
Yeah.
something. Because I think
Yeah.
we sort of get, we meet him, our narrator gets beamed out there, and they sort of have a chat. They sort of get on quite well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people talk, I've watched a few sort of what happens after you die videos, and people that have died and then come back and recount stories of becoming a ball of energy and a ball of light and traveling through archways and gateways and blinding lights and reaching burning sources of ether, and then being sucked back to this human body because they're not ready. But when they get there, they meet entities, and they wake up in like an operating room, or they wake up in this type of thing, and they're visited by giggling, in essence, school children, it feels like, but they're just interns, and they're laughing at the fact that this person is still semi-connected to their human body and has lost their comprehension of the greater meaning of everything, and they find that amusing. And then he slowly starts to whittle away and remember essences and moments of what the greater purpose of people is, or life, or energy. And then that's, you're not ready to be here yet, return back. And then like, I don't want to go back. I want to stay here. This is where I'm meant to be. No, you're back in the body. I watched a few videos on that, and I think this is just alluding to that. That's what it was doing for me anyway. That's what I took from it. But then I finally I guess the battle with the oppressor is alluding to not wanting to come back, maybe being told you have to go back. You're not done there yet. Or a narrator.
Yeah. But I guess, are you thinking that he's talking about Joe as the oppressor?
No, the spirit within
right.
is talking about the oppressor, because it alludes to that whole battle at the Nova.
He's got important stuff going on, and he keeps sort of being sucked back to this sort of hillbilly on Earth, kind of wasted his time. Does he cease to exist? Is it like they switch the old switcheroo? When Joe's awake, the cosmic entity has to be asleep, or they just connected, and it's just holding him back because Joe's not strong enough. A little unsurety, but it kind of adds to the mystery a bit. It's not like a painstaking mystery that needs to be solved.
No, exactly. Do you think, going back to the murder, is there anything more in depth than that? Who do you think did the killing? Who was the orchestrator of it? Was it just the clash of Joe?
Oh, I see. My understanding, at least, was that Joe's just being put on edge. Like, it's not the entity killing people to set up Joe. It's just Joe's, like the cosmic being is trying to disconnect from Joe. And so it's just very slowly setting up steps to sort of take him out. And it's just taking strain on Joe, who's already like a sort of drunken,
not looking after his best.
It feels like it's implied he's sort of prone to a bit of violence. So he's just pushing Joe's mental state, which is where we come across. So then when, I think so. I guess there are, like you said, there are allusions to, like, at one point it said like Joe ran and jumped and burned through the people trying to hold him captive. And that's the same phrase the cosmic being would use in, like, I will burn through the galaxy to find my thing. So there's that little hint, maybe he's embodying him, or maybe that it's like a connection, that like when the cosmic being he's actually fighting his battle, and it sort of sends Joe into like battle mode, sort of like an anxiety attack. Like an anxiety attack, it's like, oh, I'm getting a lot of adrenaline. My body's just sending me adrenaline. Something's wrong.
What do I do with it?
And just bursting out in crazy ways like that. I guess I didn't think of that, like the debate, I suppose, on how that connection's working. But I do, I think my favorite thing about it was what would be for the narrator a really tantalizing and frustrating glimpse.
Yes.
I think if we'd have done this back 2-3 years ago when we started this podcast, I imagine I would have just been like, yeah, I don't really like short stories. It's like it's not like you get your teeth stuck into it. And this almost does feel like it's just the prelude to another novel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, cool. This is like the intro, and then it's like 5 years later we meet a character, and we go from there or something. Even like a Marvel, do you know what I mean? It could be like the beginning. And what's that movie, The Eternals, or one of their more cosmic things?
What's the one with the guy that was House of Cards? Got into loads of trouble recently.
Oh,
and then
K-Pax, you mean?
K-Pax, yeah.
And I was thinking Midnight Special, if you've seen that.
Okay.
Did you? I don't know if you watched Midnight Special.
Yes, I believe I have. That's got the Zod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the similar concepts of if an alien were to what would happen, what would be reality for us would be to the mental institution for the rest of society. As in, if I started being visited by aliens, it's kind of irrelevant if it's real or not. Society wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Outside of performing miracles, like turning into an alien, that is. And even then, in this day and age, it would just be YouTube fakery, just that thing in the comments.
Yeah.
So fake, I can see anything. But
here's an oversight for you. It was made into a film.
Yeah, I tried to find something about it. I saw a few clips. It looked crazy budget and cheap.
Yeah,
it was
Beyond the Wall of Sleep, 2006.
Tom Savini, no?
Stars George Perosis.
Was it directed by or written by Savini, or maybe just directed?
No, it's directed by Barrett J. Lee and Thorna Moore.
Oh, okay. That
2006.
Makes sense. For some reason,
R-rated. A man held in an asylum for murdering his family. The young intern at the asylum suspects an even darker force may be connected to the man. 2.9 out of 10.
It does look, from what I saw, it looked like a student film. No shade.
Did it?
Yeah. Just some clips on YouTube. Okay. It's like, man, this is just done at home. I don't know.
Right.
No shade, filmmakers. Good on you, and keep going. But this one was tossed. But looks to be fair, I didn't see it.
Oh dear. I found this on the $1 rack at the video store and said, look, Lovecraft. And thus rented what I thought would be a fun movie to scare the crap out of myself at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. It scared me. Well, it scared me, right? But not with unspeakable horrors usually expected. Something with the name H.P Lovecraft on it. With some pretty horrific acting, poor sound equalization, and camera angles even my mum could pull off. Brilliant. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it shows all of that stuff does just from clips and even the advert. Like when the advert isn't even nailed.
Yeah. For taking the best bits and it making it look shit, then you've got to worry. So not going back, but talk Stephen King. We've often spoke about King, and one of the things I really liked about King, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before, is when he talks about how to write good horror and what makes good horror is it's not the reveal. It's the lead up to the reveal. It's the lead up to the door rather than what is behind the door.
Very Hitchcockian.
Yeah, that's what makes horror scary. You being able to fill in the blanks with your own imagination. And having read now 2 stories of Lovecraft, I don't know how many of you have you read more than just these 2?
And none that I remember. I think I read a couple, but like no memory of them. Like when I was young.
So far, we've only read Dagon and this one, Beyond the Wall of Sleep, and both of them, he uses language that enables the reader to paint the pictures between the gaps. Okay, and I think this section here, going back to the oppressor in this short story, sums it what I'm trying to say there up beautifully. Okay, so I'm just going to read this small paragraph. It comes very near towards the end of the story. Of the oppressor, I cannot speak. You on earth have unwittingly felt its distant presence. You who without knowing idly gave to its blinking beacon the name of Algol, the demon star. It is to meet and conquer the oppressor that I have vainly striven for aeons. Held back by bodily encumbrances, tonight I go as such a nemesis, bearing just and blazingly cataclysmic vengeance. Watch me in the sky, close by Demon Star. That it says so much. Absolutely masses. I think is written in that small paragraph, but yet there's so much that's not said. It's what we put in that enables it to be such an expansive, monumental, cataclysmic battle of something and someone. Is that a person who is fed up with being repeatedly entrapped in Joe Slater's or Egyptian stone dwellers, cutters, goldsmiths, blacksmiths, pitiful human bodies. He's sick and tired of being repeatedly sent back and has had enough of it and wants to go and fight the oppressor or the god that has decided this is going to be your cycle of life, this reincarnation, this constant rebirth and death and rebirth and death. And this person has had enough of that and is going to face off against this entity that has decided this is his path. Or it could be something totally different. So many interpretations. And that, so far, is what I've enjoyed about reading Lovecraft.
With the hint of what it means, but nothing, but just that at the most. I think, definitely, I feel like that's definitely what's like fun to see the narrator experience.
Yes.
And the idea that this narrator is probably going to be shell-shocked for the rest of his life. That there's just greatness out there. Like he's had glimpsed this sort of psychedelic, cosmic soul, fantastic thing that is almost beyond his comprehension.
Yeah.
It was just a glimpse for like 20 minutes. And he can never really go back. Will he spend the rest of his, will he become, like I was saying, this is like a prelude to like a longer novel. Will that narrator grow up to be the mad scientist who has spent his life kidnapping people and putting them through human experiments to get back at this?
And he's the only one, again, he's the only one that's believed, because his superior very quickly dismisses it as a man who is weak with tiredness and
he says John Snow is just telling fairy tales and you're sort of buying into it.
And then sends him on a 6-month holiday.
6 months paid holiday. You are having a laugh, son. 6 months paid.
Yes, please. I'll have some of that.
Damn. Well, it is intern. He's not even like head doctor or anything.
Yeah. Just go to the days, eh?
I guess so, yeah.
So yeah, that is what I like about, so far, I've really enjoyed about reading Lovecraft, is the way that he uses the words and the way that he uses them to tell so much, but or provide a platform for us to interpret so much.
See, this is kind of, not to hark on about it, but not that it should be something like brought up when it's relevant, is why it's so disappointing to find out he was a massive bigot. Because it's, for me, what I'm getting from this is like, you have
is it tainting it? No, I guess that's what you're saying. It's tainting your reading experience because you've done the research a bit to see that.
It seems like his ideas are going to be, like the sum up is going to be like, you have no idea how insignificant you really are. Like, how does this narrator go on with his life knowing that, like, what am I doing? What's my day-to-day life when these fantastic gods almost are sort of souling and out there, and they exist, and we're denied that world. To have that feeling, to have that sense of that's what my writing is about, the insignificance of the entire earth almost. But then to also have these like racist beliefs about like, well, the color of your skin makes you different. So what? But you're what? It's really freaking frustrating.
Right. Okay.
Because it's just like it's just anti the nature of what he's bloody writing about. The insignificance of man to his belief that all men are different and above them different, like that man's lesser of me because of the way he happens to be from.
Yeah, I guess that's a mirror of how he feels himself, doesn't it?
Do you think the one thing this story was kind of missing was our narrator potentially having glimpses of losing his own sanity through this? Or is it just after Dagon? So no, we don't. Not everyone needs to go mad.
No, I don't. Yeah, I think this was perfectly pitched. It set up enough for me to go, whoa, okay, yeah, wow, okay, this David.
It's like that night on mushrooms.
I will stand in the shower and think about this for good. Yeah.
You talk about psychedelics.
Yeah, no, just exactly that. You know, when you do, well, if you have ever done psychedelics or been extremely stoned, you do drift off and have conversations about the wildest, fantastical imaginations possible. And yeah, this is kind of largely that.
You think you'll just sort of come out, oh man, never again, dude.
Yeah.
Like it gets his mates, dude, trust me, you got to try this.
Stick this on your head.
Have you ever had lucid dreaming?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
Can't read that. Oh, yourself?
I think so. I don't know if I just dreamt that I was lucid dreaming or that I was lucid dreaming. I think I've had very random snippets where I think it's that state of waking up and going back to sleep and just hitting what felt like 10 minutes in that I'm not quite awake, but I'm aware that I'm not sleeping. I think, like I said, I might have just been dreaming that I was thinking I was waking up, because those are kind of weird dreams where I've literally before dreamt that I was laying on my bed trying to get to sleep. I'm sure of it. So
where do you stand? Yeah. Where do you stand on, and I guess this is by and large what the stories talk about, astral projection.
It's a very cool fantasy idea, but where I stand on it in the real world, I don't think I've ever had an out of body experience. What we're talking about before on shall we say psychedelic substances, none should be named. Like I understand what people talk about when they talk about time, like losing, like coming to understand about, we see time in a straight line because it sort of makes you access your memory in a very strange way that you really feel transported to like a memory in the past. And then, you know, there's certain drugs I imagine people come out of and they've taken you know, a hell of a lot, not just a holiday trip, but like a business, a work, year-long business amount of these things. And it probably takes them a while to figure out which part is the dream.
Yeah.
If you take something so heavy and you dream about this entire different life and it feels like it lasts a few years, when you come out of it, are you wondering if this is the dream?
All right,
but not in that sense. That's what I mean. I haven't had that experience where I've lived an alternate life. But so my experience is, what I mean is like had a flashback to some sort of event some years ago.
Right.
And there's for a moment I lose myself and I'm not aware that I'm in the present dreaming of this past time. I actually it's like I'm reliving it like a waking dream. But it's similar to deja vu because it's not something new. It's like I've time traveled back into my body and I can see myself through the eyes without real control. But they were good times, you know what I mean? And definitely your sense of time is stretched out where a minute lasts 10 minutes, you know, half hour lasts about an hour and a half.
Wow.
And I cannot comprehend having a bad trip on these things.
No.
It must be a flipping nightmare.
Yeah.
Because one thing I did just was on the edging on, I thought it was going to be a fun trip. This is actually quite intense. And I don't think I knew how strong it was going to be. And to put it in layman's terms, I was off my tits. And in a very safe space. Yeah. Physically and mentally, but way out of my control. Very much if you've just gotten like smashed before on alcohol, that point where you get to that just before it's absolutely horrible, you sort of realize you've had too much. There's a very small window where you're like, oh no, I'm really, really drunk in an uncomfortable way. And I've just done 3 shots, which are in the post.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And there's nothing I can do. I can drink some water, maybe I can throw up, but that's not actually going to make a difference.
yeah.
And because it's very introspective, these aren't like alcohols and mostly like an ultra drug. A lot of drugs,
Mhm.
imagine like cocaine it's considered an ultra drug. It pushes you
Right.
out. Whereas so a lot of psychedelics the reason they're psychedelic is because they push you in to yourself,
Yeah.
into your psyche, in your own brain, in your memory. Um, so I forgot what I was going to say. I've gone off on one. I'm tripping right now, mate.
Yeah, for me, like I am, I've had in my past has frequented with recreational substances, but the only experience really I've had of something going horribly wrong was just an excessive amount of the magic mushrooms that have been somebody gone out and picked an awful lot of magic mushrooms and then condensed them down into like a wine.
Also
And
fermented.
so I had an inch worth of the bottom of a mug of this condensed 11 ounces worth of mushrooms in weight. And this, again, like you say, you realize on the way up or in that this is quite strong. Oh, crikey, this is really, hang on a minute. Now I've only just started
This roller
doing this
coaster
and
is
it's
on the
already
flat.
too much. And it was an experience because I was walking from one area of Wales to a small town to get a bus home.
You were out and about on this
Yes, yes. So this was a
with
nature
friends?
reserve. One person, one friend who hadn't taken quite as much as I had, and it was a sort of a narrow nature walk between this housing estate in the middle of Welsh outback, or Catskills, and to
Sounds inviting. That's the safe space I want to be in when I lose my mind.
It's not though, because the trees arced over the top, and they started at the beginning open. By the end of the thing, they close in on top of you, and it becomes like a dark corridor. And then it was towards the end of the day, so the night was pulling in. So you've got these trees pulling in, the skylight pulling in, the atmosphere around you pulling in, your inside pulling in.
Yeah, shadows jump when in forests and woods because there's so many. You're seeing, I guess, the 3D of leaves and everything, everything passing. I've done a little night hiking, and you really have to get used to shadows popping. Just it gives you the essence of, there's something there. Oh no, it's literally just the shadow of the plant.
Yeah,
because they're everywhere. Everything's moving. That sounds like a nightmare, Toby.
It was horrific.
But so no one said to you, do this in a safe space, not do this and make your trip journey home on a bus?
It's actually quite a good story for the Lovecraft. Like these people were not of the higher decorum. They weren't very intelligently aware of their surroundings or what they were doing to people. They just thought it was funny.
Were they partaking?
The guy that made it thought it was funny to hand me a half a glass or half a mug full of mushrooms at 11 ounces boiled down.
Like in a cruel, did you know him in a cruel way? Like
I knew him, but he wasn't. He was a Joe Slater.
Okay, right.
So to him, it was shits and giggles, basically. To me, it was an absolute nightmare that ended any inkling of wanting to take transportational, psychedelics, hallucinative drugs. So it's only magic mushrooms, but my God, anybody listening.
The thing is, they're flipping strong. And it's not like there's no real countable way to know how much you've taken. It's some mushrooms might be more potent than others. Take it slow. So you got home. What is there more?
So I got to the end of this pathway, and I ended up in
about 10 hours. It felt like.
It felt a lot longer than that. No, I mean, so I ended up in a ball, curled up in a ball at the foot of a bird watching wooden hut, overlooking
out in a park. Like in the
woods. In the woods, basically. It was overlooking a lake, swamp area, and had a little slit in that you could view out. And I was curled up at the bottom of that, looking out of my eyes through a black sheet that had Jesus crosses cut through it. And the light was pouring through and fractaling in front of my eyes. And then this Jeep pulled up. This park ranger came out and said, "You can't be here. You need to move on." I couldn't speak. I was
You're having
very
what
wet.
sounds like a massive religious experience with all these like crucifix shining down on you. Like,
And I
God,
got up and I carried on walking. My friend was not carrying me, but
I'm still with you.
Yeah, he was still
Okay,
with
that's
me.
good. Yeah.
We ended up in the middle of the town, and
Oh
then I got
no, that's almost worse, isn't it?
so
Population,
surrounded by
people's faces on those kind of things.
Mhm. It was horrific. And then I remember being so terrified that I really wanted my dad. And I got up from behind this wall that was next to a hospital that I was hiding behind, stood up, went round the side of the wall, and I swear to God, my dad drove past in our car.
Wow.
Exact
So just
moment
timing,
I
or you
felt
caught him?
just complete timing.
Wow.
He was heading to the local, I guess, supermarket or something like that. And he drove past and I saw him. And that kind of gave me a bit of inner strength, seeing him.
The familiarity.
Grounded. And then I ended up but I didn't want to see him then. After having seen a fleeting glimpse of him, I didn't want him to see me off my trolley on mushrooms. He was not that way inclined. And then I ended up on a bus that turned into a tube. And
so, like in your mind, it morphed into a tube.
Yeah, it morphed into a tube.
Far out.
like a London Underground type tube. And then I got home.
Sounds horrible, mate.
It was,
and then from that point, you only had another 5 hours in your bedroom, tripping and watching the paint drip.
And and then I would have flashbacks and not sure what was real, what wasn't.
When you got home and in bed, could you mellow out and enjoy the trip a little?
No.
Which is just the nightmare of it. Was
the only thing I enjoyed was the fact that he was coming down and I was getting out of it. And
you're aware of it. You're coming back to yourself. Because for me, I find that
never had to go back there ever again for the rest of my life.
The length of it and the intensity. What I find is that the scary part is that you can question your own sense of reality, and you sort of forget that you're going to come back. For me, the fear is like, but like, I've just looked through the glass darkly. Now, what if I can't? What if I don't go back to seeing how I saw before? Yeah. Very much, we will definitely do a scanner darkly sometime. But like, what if I've just switched something and this is how I see the world, and this feeling is just how I feel? It can be quite alienating from mankind and yourself.
Well, that's exactly what you were alluding to when you were talking about the narrator of this tale, and how his glimpse of this otherworldly beyond the veil, how will that go on to impact him for the rest of his life?
Yeah.
And again, now that leads us right full circle back to Lovecraft and his ability to tell tales, but
you think it was just
also create a bigger world of horror to imagine.
You think he was just a shroom muncher? You think it was all nonsense? He was just tripping all the time with a pen in his hand?
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
But he does, and go back to the story, he does it kind of the reasoning behind our narrator examining or performing these experiments on John is because he's using terminology and language that the narrator perceives is far beyond a person's of that demeanor and stature, catskill, redneck, hillbilly should ever have
is it
knowledge of.
Is it Pygmalion? Is it My Fair Lady, when he sort of takes the poor woman's like, the water in the water don't taste like it water. And by the end of the day, she's like, the water in Mallorca does not taste like it should do. It's like he's done that in a microsecond. He's well, no, he didn't posh up, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah, definitely he's gone beyond our understanding of John Slater's communication. And yeah, I got quite a solid little story for me. I guess you said someone was just like, this is just another racist story from him. I'm not quite sure I pick up on that.
No, I didn't.
I don't know if there's a sense of being that, he's put himself in the cosmonauts' shoes. He's looking down upon John. I definitely could argue some snobism
Yes, definitely. There's a high levels novelism going on.
But is that not something a lot of
People do.
creatives are guilty of? I feel like
And
I've
just
seen
normal
many a film where homeless people are used as a scare, for example. Like someone's walking down a dark alley, they've got lost, and it's like, hey, you got any change? And it's done to like, oh my God, get away from me.
Do you have a light?
Get away from me, dirty hobo.
It's how I feel like walking through the high streets of Erdington at times.
Erdington? Is that where you
Erdington, yeah, that's where I live in Birmingham.
okay.
It's widely regarded as the Catskill or the Birmingham West Midlands.
Oh, okay. Is it a rough area, or no? It just feels
it's just not very nice area. It's very.
Oh, I guess I was there briefly to visit you. I guess it seemed nice there, but I didn't really walk around. I suppose we just went to the nearest pub and to the train station.
yeah. We went the other way.
Oh, okay.
We went to the nice area. Yeah, if you actually head up into the hills, it gets quite feral. In summary, I think this was a really good short story that enabled a wide scope of discussion in the same way that the prose of Lovecraft enables a wide scope of horror.
Especially for so short. And especially for what whole beginning feels quite clipped. I could sum up the first 2 pages in a paragraph. You know how it ends with a news article. It could have started with the news article of a paragraph to clip it even more. So yeah, kind of enjoyed this one. Very fun read.
Have you got another one lined up for us?
I don't. You want to hit another one?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Do you want? We have been going through in terms of. I have a list of like shortists, so it was always for ease. But I don't know if you just want to flick through your book and pick a random name to poke.
No, I'm very happy to continue with from shortest to longest.
You want to know what that is now?
Yeah,
in an email somewhere.
So viewers, viewers. This is what our next Lovecraft adventure shall be. Join us as we delve into the mind of madness.
The Statement of Randolph Carter.
Oh, let me see if we've got that in my book. Sure I have.
As far as I know, that's his third shortest. I will be working in terms of length. Yeah. It
was the one directly after Dagon in my.
Oh, okay, nice. I imagine a lot of compilations
Randolph Carter.
Put the shorter ones first to sort of tease you in. Listeners, what did you make of Beyond the Wall of Sleep? Dig it, or psychedelic nonsense, or or wow, it's given me a new lease on life.
I'm never going to say him again.
It's an 8-hour trip I want to get off of. And thank you for joining us, listeners. If you made it this far, thank you very much. Let's call that another one wrapped.
Yep. Do a like and subscribe. We always deliver this at the end beautifully, like pro YouTubers, podcasters.
It's almost like we forgot at the beginning where it's important.
Yeah.
Squeezed it in at the end where it's not important.
Let's smash that follow button. Yes, thank you very much. And till next time.
Have a great day.
Sleep well.
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode. And until then, spoil your look at bookstores and have a great day.